Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Chen Arad, one of the co-founders of Solidus Labs, and it's really our pleasure, as always, to have you join us for another conversation about crypto market integrity. Today's episode of the Stockholm Digital podcast is focused on the work done by the Crypto Market Integrity Coalition. It's a community of interest of 55 organizations pledged in writing and actively working to advance market integrity. And I have the absolute pleasure of having with me here Julia Baranovskaya, who is the Chief Compliance Officer at NDAX, a Canadian exchange. She is not only the leader of CMIC's Workstream on countering fraud, and that's a lot of what we'll be talking about today. She's also one of the biggest experts I know about not only compliance in general in crypto, but specifically fraud and scams, and of course, how to prevent them. Julia, it's such a pleasure to have you with me.
Thank you so much for an amazing introduction. I don't even know if I can add anything to it, but as I mentioned, I'm Julia, and I'm Chief Compliance Officer here at NDAX, as well as one of the founding team members of NDAX, which is a Canadian-based cryptocurrency platform. And I am extremely passionate about fraud prevention, and I truly think there's a need for education and just a general conversation about it.
Absolutely, and that's why we're here. And I think you actually added a few really important details, the fact that you're a co-founder, I should have mentioned. So thanks for clarifying that. So let us start with why are we here and why do we think it was important enough to have this conversation and record this podcast. If you could tell us a little bit about the work that you've been leading in the countering fraud workstream, CMIC, and why is this topic so important?
Oh, absolutely. In the last, actually, from the time that crypto became in existence, from the time that crypto became a tradable assets and people got engaged and interested in it, we actually have seen nefarious players starting to explore this option of scamming people. So it's not any different from what we have seen in traditional finance, but it's just the technology is quite different. And so within CMIC, we actually work on putting out educational material, ensure that the people are aware of most common scams and frauds, but also have resources and places where they can find that information and check for themselves if the project or platform that they're using could be an okay project or there's a potential for additional unnecessary risk.
Absolutely. And there are really interesting tools and resources out there, and I'm sure we'll cover them. One thing that's really important for me to say before we dive deeper is that I think it's really important when you talk about the many challenges in crypto, in the crypto industry. It's really important to remember that crypto didn't invent most of those things. Like you said, it's not different from traditional finance in the sense that wherever there's value to be made, wherever there are opportunities, there are always going to be bad actors who try to swindle other people out of their money. It's not something that's unique to crypto, but as a new industry, usually almost every new industry, new technology is often a place where scammers focus on because there are opportunities to manipulate. But this is not a crypto problem. It's a much bigger problem. That being said, could you maybe start by sharing a little bit about how are scams in crypto different, if there are differences, if there are specific nuances? What makes it different or unique in crypto?
I think the unique aspect of it is that it's just a new technology. And so it makes it a little bit easier for those bad players to take advantage of people because not everybody fully has a full understanding on how crypto works, what is blockchain, how the transactions are conducted on the blockchain, and what kind of engagement you should expect from a platform or a service provider. And that's where people sometimes get exposed to those scams and frauds. But then, you take a step back and then you quickly realize that we have seen exactly the same type of scams conducted through the traditional finance, right? We have seen all types of pyramid schemes. We have seen fake assurance of equity products or, just in general, fake investment scams. And so in the crypto space, there was a lot of those same strategies adapted, but just of the nuances of the product, all those transactions become final and non-reversible once they're processed. So it becomes a little bit harder to find a recourse of actions.
Right. I think On the other side of things, obviously, what law enforcement often emphasizes, there is a traceability capability, but the immutability also creates new challenges. So maybe let's. Sorry, did you have?
Yeah, no, I was going to add to that, and obviously, just because how crypto is conducted and how globalization of this project became, increasingly added the risk to the fact that often crypto ends up being in a different jurisdiction from where the victim of scam is. So that is where it becomes a little bit more challenging as well.
Right. Let's maybe start by trying to advise our listeners. What are some warning signs? What are kind of things to look for when you're trying to assess if some sort of crypto product you're interested in is a scam or not?
Absolutely. And once again, it's very similar to what we've seen in the traditional finance, right? We hear this over and over and over again, absolutely through every channel. If something sounds too good to be true, stay away from it. So truly understanding what is the baseline, right? What is it where you look at it and you go, oh, that's a little too much, what the promise or guarantee is, right? That we're looking at 10% of return on your investment. Is there 30% of return on your investment? And how could a platform or somebody in crypto can actually make certain guarantees if you're simply investing in the spot market trading? So understanding that, and here's an interesting example. I was once talking to a gentleman, and he told me that he's not making a whole lot, was only 2% return on investment, which realistically speaking, 2% doesn't seem much. But then the individual went on to tell me that it was actually daily return on investment, which makes it extremely high. And that is where it's so important to truly be able to understand and evaluate what you're being promised. Is this actually too high?
What about promotion and solicitation? Like how would you say people should be thinking about flashy websites, or when they're investing? Is it, if someone reaches out to them versus finding yourself what you want to invest in? What about those elements?
Yeah, and we've seen lots and lots of different fake investment websites. According to Department of Finance Protection and Innovation, we actually in the last year we have seen 87% increase in those websites. So they pop up everywhere. You could see them, through when you scroll through news channels, when you Google for things, they just pop up on the side of your searches. They pop up through your social media channels, and a bit of a whack-a-mole. So the law enforcement is trying to take them down. The platforms, it's trying to take them down. But it's really, really hard. So it is, at the end of the day, investors' responsibility to identify if this platform is okay to use, or if they're not okay.
Right.
And taking like a step back from it, start with finding a platform that is in your own jurisdiction. It does already give you a little bit of extra protection or some sort of comfort level if you're dealing with somebody who's located in your backyard. And then take another step back and look at where that platform should be registered. What regulator in your jurisdiction registered cryptocurrency trading platforms, and check their legitimacy. And of course, you run into another issue with the fake platforms that actually impersonate those good players. So then, it is really important to look for security signs on that website, for any inconsistency, and just, making sure that you're really doing that due diligence before you're putting a single penny into that project or investment opportunity.
Right. Someone recently shared with me this new acronym. So Dior is not just a fashion house. It's also do your own research, DYOR, right? And honestly, that's so true, not just in crypto, but probably about everything in life. And it's kind of crazy how very good scammers and malicious actors are good at getting people's guards down, either because they emphasize the FOMO element. Everyone is making money. Everyone is talking about it. Bitcoin just crossed 100,000. I got to do something now. And then people miss on doing all of the really important steps you just described. I get added, I feel like 3 times a day to some WhatsApp group where someone is promising, honestly, it's pretty clumsy. Like, it's not convincing in my opinion, but I can totally see how someone who just saw a headline about the value of Bitcoin is like, oh, that's cool. And they're promising me high returns. No, be careful. Let's maybe kind of dive deeper into maybe specific kind of scams. Ponzi schemes is a term we hear a lot. What would you say are like some of the telltales of a crypto Ponzi scheme, for example? Like,
Oh, there's a whole array of different tactics that the bad players use. And the one that keeps on popping up on the news, and it's quite prominent right now in crypto, which also previously was used in the traditional finance, is a pig butchering scam. And I know some people cringe and that don't really like the terminology, but it's basically the way it works. You start with a very small investment. You get, one of those flashy websites in front of you, or a deep fake impersonating a famous person, right? We've seen tons of that happening as well online. And it's really hard to see if you're actually dealing with that famous individual, or if that's the person that's telling you the news, or this is just a deep fake. It's very hard to identify it. And so they start with, flashy lines, flashy returns on investments. They ask you for a very small amount. You start with a few $100s. Quickly, you see a few $100s double and triple and quadruple. And that's where people already learned what I previously mentioned is if something sounds too good to be true, probably it is. That's where people start questioning. Is this a legit return? How can I get my money back? And that is where the fraudster just give them just a little bit money back, like just a small amount of money back. And that's that pig butchering, scam technique starts getting incorporated into this investment scam, where the person basically sells their trust. The fraudster is able to give them reassurance that they can get the funds back. And then the individual starts putting more and more money in. And as soon as the fraudster identifies that that individual is no longer willing or able to put money in, they turn around, they slaughter that pig, and they run away with every single penny that they were able to take away from that individual that became a victim of scam. So that would be probably the one that is trending quite a bit. And we see it all the time.
It's really disturbing. I'm telling you, like the amount of pig butchering has really become a massive phenomenon of theft. I believe the FBI recently published a few different reports on just how much of it is happening. And again, important to say, it's not unique to crypto. Once someone is able to get someone's trust, then there's a lot of other ways you can get money out of them. Crypto, because as you mentioned, is new technology and is relatively still, the regulation is still evolving, and because of the buzz and FOMO around it, is just a very convenient channel for some of these scammers. I also kind of want to ask you, because it happens to me as sometimes you also have a public figure and, people know you work in crypto. Every couple of months, someone messages me with a screenshot of a message on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter from an account that impersonates mine, telling them to come in on this crypto project or that crypto project. That's a very good way sometimes to get people's guards off. I wonder if it happens to you as well, because it's just so frustrating to know someone is using your name to try and get credibility to steal from someone.
Absolutely. And I've seen a number of LinkedIn profiles popping up on me. I might not be as popular as like Elon Musk or, some of the founders of some of the crypto assets. Those people I definitely get, abused quite a bit more from that perspective. And we actually have seen quite a few fake giveaways with some of the founders of prominent crypto assets where, there were video played with obviously deep fakes and the QR code provided, and people were encouraged to send a small amount of crypto or whatever amount of crypto to that by scanning that QR code to receive increase of 50% in return within a short period of time, which obviously you can only imagine how people start trusting that person. That person founded that crypto asset. So of course I could trust that person, and people were actually sending funds out. But this is where, once again, right, you need to take that step back and go, how does that make sense? If I send it, right, why would this person give me 50% more? And look for other things, look for other warning signs. This deep fakes and AI technology is not perfect. So we still have an opportunity to maybe see some little blur on the background, or maybe seeing some funny lines, or maybe the lips are not aligned with what they're saying. So those are the type of things that we really need to be paying attention to. So we need to be extra vigilant with everything we do at this point in time.
Yes. And I think if I just gonna, we still have a lot more conversation ahead of us, but if I kind of summarize some of the key insights so far, first of all, do your own research. Dior is not just a fashion house. It's a really important principle to protecting yourself. The solicitation element you've mentioned in a few different times. Usually, if someone reaches out to you offering you a lot of money or even a little money, you got to be careful. And also, even if you made some money, you still got to be extremely careful because it's actually a tactic that people use in order to get you to put in more money. So never let your guard down, and be careful. You mentioned AI now. There's definitely some correlation between the kind of proliferation of endless amount of new websites and scams. I mean, generative AI definitely helps to accelerate the ability of kind of scammers to scale. I'm curious if you have kind of any thoughts specifically on the role of AI in all of this, or maybe does it help? Is it worse? What should people be thinking about that?
Have almost dual feeling towards it. I love the opportunity that it gives us to improve our work stream, or improve our productivity, and even detection of potential scams and frauds. But in the same time, it's definitely being used for nefarious activity as well, such as impersonation, deep fakes. But even in the old good phishing scams, AI is now used to generate those messages and send it out to people, right? And this is where with the phishing scams, for example, once again, right, this is something that's been used in a traditional finance and used for obtaining people's private information for a lot of different other reasons. It's also now used in crypto to get passwords for people's wallets and get access to the crypto assets that they stored. And so this is actually used not just for newbies in the crypto that are not even sure what crypto is, how the blockchain works, but some people that have been investing in crypto assets for a very long time became victims of the phishing scams, where they were exposed through their wallet passwords or addresses that they have used. And then it almost goes into the next, another typology that was identified by chain analysis is the token approval, where once again, this is more of targeting people that have been investing for a little bit longer, but also those that are not maybe paying attention as much to any permissions that were set on their addresses.
Right. I'll just mention that one thing that I think is also interesting with Gen AI is how it essentially allows people to code. So we see that a lot. We see a lot of use of Gen AI in the realm of hard-coded smart contract scams, so rug pulls, etc. If you're a scammer, if it used to take you a certain amount of time to code a fraudulent smart contract, now you can ask OpenAI or another algorithm to create more and more of them. So it just helps. I think you said it right. Like, as much as it helps us scale our work, it also helps, unfortunately, bad actors scale their work.
Yeah, and you've mentioned the rug and pull. They became actually extremely popular on social media as well. And in fact, in 2023, there was about $760 million that was lost to rug and pull.
Yes.
Which is sad statistics, because if you think about it, based on what we know, what the law enforcement tells us is that only about 3 to 5% of frauds and scams are actually getting reported. So this numbers are definitely underreported, and we're looking at significantly higher scale of these frauds and scams that have been conducted online.
You know what? I think that's a really important point and a great segue to kind of like let's say the next phase of our conversation today, which is let's get a little bit more tactical in terms of how people can protect themselves, what steps they should take. So let me start just with that question. For example, you mentioned the importance of verifying the location or the credibility or the regulatory stature of a platform. So what steps can investors take to confirm those? Where can one look for those information? Obviously, you manage one of the most reputable, you lead the compliance of one of the most reputable platforms in Canada. So I'm sure you have good suggestions on how to verify where you're putting your money is legitimate and credible.
Absolutely. And I even will start with more of a broader statement. And this is something that I always tell absolutely everybody that asks me about anything. I always tell people, never do anything without full understanding. So never invest without fully understanding what you're investing in, what product you're going to be purchasing, how this product is going to make you money, or how could you lose money in that particular project or cryptocurrency. and also who you're dealing with, right? Take that really big, wide approach and do a little bit of investigation. It does require a little bit of legwork, and it's not easy. Unfortunately, there's no magic centralized platform where you could put the name of the individual you're dealing with or the platform you're dealing with, and you're going to get all the information. Unfortunately, it just doesn't exist. So first of all, if we're talking about Canada, right? In Canada, you need to understand what regulators would typically regulate crypto platforms. But that goes for any jurisdiction, right? Is crypto regulated in my jurisdiction, in my country where I reside? If yes, what regulator regulates it? Look up that crypto platform. Make sure that you could verify their legitimacy, their registration, and then obviously go through the website. Make sure that you're actually dealing with a legitimate website. And one very little thing, and it may be a little silly, but it's extremely important. If you are dealing with a crypto platform and you have identified that this is a legitimate platform, bookmark it on your computer. Make sure you don't go through the search engines and finding every time, because that could expose you to unnecessary additional risk of running into fake platform and giving your credentials to a notorious player that is just replicating reputable platform.
Absolutely. It's such an important point because sometimes a scammer can create a website that looks exactly like the original website, and you really have to look closely to see that something is missing. So I think that's actually a really good point. Like, make sure you're going to the same website if you found a good one, and not one that someone created so that it looks like it. I think also usually legitimate platforms, all of their communications will include clarifications that they would never send you certain things. They would never ask you to send money in certain ways. So if you really pay attention, then there are signs, but they can sometimes be hard to spot. I think you also mentioned earlier, the point about investing remotely. And we talked about it a little bit in our prep here about this question of risks associated with remote access scams in crypto. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what are those risks? How should people think about it?
Now, this is actually one of the technologies that was trending for a number of years. And the fraudsters often understand that, their victim or somebody they're trying to victimize might not have a full understanding. So often they would offer their assistance. They would offer to connect remotely to your computer or to your, any electronic device such as tablet or your phone, and will offer you assistance, right? Oh, let me do this for you. And so a lot of times people are actually quite happy about it because somebody's actually looking out for me. Somebody's understanding that I don't have a full technological knowledge. But this is probably one of the worst things that we could do. First of all, it exposes you to the financial risk, right? Because somebody is going to be moving money on your behalf, which is typically not even permitted on platforms. But also, you're giving the full access to your banking information, to your personal information. So it becomes significantly bigger issue. I always compare it to, we don't give our house keys to the strangers. And this is equivalent to giving access to all our personal information, to our financial information, because once they're in your device, once they're in your computer, the sky's the limit. They can access all your information. And then it not just leads to you becoming a victim of investment scam, and effectively losing funds, but you could also potentially be a victim of identity fraud and additional theft. And usually that's what we tend to see. Once the individual becomes a victim of scam once, they become a victims of many others.
Right. It's such a, you hear stories that just break your heart sometimes. And you know what, I guess if it's okay, I kind of want to share a personal story because it recently, if someone was close to me, it wasn't a crypto scam, but my partner's dad, my girlfriend's dad, who's relatively old, was trying to buy something on Amazon, and in the rush of trying to sort a problem, he was trying to sort a return or something like that. He Googled what is Amazon's contact number, and some scammer was able to plug into the Google results a fraudulent number. And when you call a number that says it's the Amazon number, you obviously call and you assume that they're going to, it's a reputable company, right? But it wasn't. And he quickly realized that something is off, but it was too late and lost some money. And again, one of the sharpest guys I know. And I think one of the things about it is also that people are sometimes ashamed when it happens to them. And that's another thing. You say that it's often underreported. I think it's because people feel stupid. It's really important not to feel stupid because it happens to the best of us. It happens to people that I know that have been involved in crypto for half a decade. So, they're very, very sophisticated, malicious actors out there. So anyway, sorry.
I got a story to tell you on that one too, actually.
Please.
I always believe that for that scam to happen, you're absolutely right. Brightest people also become victims of scam. And even people that are dealing with it all the time become victims of scam. And for that, sometimes it's just the stars need to align. And I was at one of the conference, and one of the law enforcement agents was telling his personal story, and which always kind of interesting because that's what he deals with every day. But it was COVID times. His kids were home. They were climbing up and down. He was going absolutely crazy with that. So he ordered a swing set, and it was delayed and delayed and delayed. And so he was trying to figure out the way to, maybe pick it up a little bit early or find another way to get it, to the house quickly. And that was that moment in time when he got the link saying, just pay $1.37 and click on this link and we'll speed up the delivery. I mean, we're talking, this is a law enforcement agent that's had 30 years of experience in law enforcement and dealt with fraud and scam, right? So it was just that moment in time where everything aligned well because he was waiting for the swing. He was dealing with the delivery company. He was reaching out to them. And that's when the link happened. But right, we're talking back to those phishing scams where there's enormous amount of links being sent. There's enormous amount of information that's being sent or generated online. And we are quite exposed and we are more likely to click the not when we are, when it aligns with what we're expecting.
Right. And the reality is that even the sharpest, most experienced people can't be on guard all the time. And, sometimes it happens, but, you should try to be as careful as you can. But if it happened, you shouldn't feel stupid. You should report it and you should share it with others so it doesn't happen to them. I think, that's an important thing to keep in mind. Like, we're all in this craziness of the modern age and Gen AI, et cetera, together. And we got to kind of be open about it even when bad things happen. I wanted to ask you also, on the same note of more tactically, how can investors protect themselves? Do you have any specific strategies that can help investors stay up to date on scams? Because again, part of the issue is that there are constantly new kinds of scams and new tactics and strategies from the scammers. So if someone wants to make sure that they follow the right information or keep up with what they need to be most careful about, what would you say is a good strategy for investors?
Do your own research, right? So it's so important to educate yourself and try to understand. So I am a big believer in education. I'm a very big believer in constantly learning and staying up to date with anything that's happening in the space. And so for my love for that, we actually have a lighthouse on NDAX, and we do provide people with blog and a lot of different information on how to spot fraud, how to identify it, how to protect yourself. But also, don't be shy talking to others. It might sound like you're talking to an individual online that is telling you that they could invest for you and make you lots of money. And it might be sounding just fine to you, but have a discussion with your friend, with the neighbor next door, with somebody you see at the coffee room in the office. Have a conversation. Even if you already lost funds or if you're just entertaining the idea, talk about it. And another thing that kind of just leads me into talking about is, what I mentioned as well, that typically people, once they become victims of scam, they get re-victimized. So what I've seen is also recovery scams. And this is a really big part of it now because, crypto has been around for quite some time. So some people already lost funds years ago. And now all of a sudden, out of the blue, they're getting contacted by recovery services or governmental agencies claiming that they recovered their funds. Don't believe that either. Kind of back to your point that if somebody's soliciting, if somebody's reaching out to you, those are the times when you really need to get those guards up and take an extra careful look at it and take another, really zoom into what are they trying to tell you. And so what we typically tend to see with the recovery services, it's just a part of the same scam that existed years ago, but now they're claiming that they were able to locate your previously lost funds. And now, of course, the money, grown a lot more. And you just need to pay taxes for recovering it. This doesn't exist in a crypto world. You don't need to prove anything to anybody in crypto. You don't need to fund a magical crypto wallet somewhere on the blockchain to get the funds back. It just simply doesn't exist. So if you're ever in doubt, reach out to the platform where you previously acquired the crypto asset, the legitimate platform that you were dealing with originally. Go to your law enforcement agencies. Reach out to anti-fraud centers. There's one in every country, in every jurisdiction. Or talk to your person that you trust, your family members.
Thank you for that. And I guess as we kind of move towards the end of our conversation, I'm curious to kind of ask about what are some of the tools available, either for platforms, what are you guys doing, and kind of what tools are available for you? You touched it a little bit, but we'd love to hear more. And also what tools might be available for investors in who are investing in crypto and can use them independently.
Yeah, so as I've mentioned, we do provide a lot of education. I do strongly believe that if everyone can understand what the good platform looks like and what the bad platform looks like, it will solve half of the problem. Also understanding that crypto is still quite new. Yes, it's been around for a number of years now, but in the big picture, it's still a new type of investment. So learning about it, understanding, and never putting more money than you can afford to lose. Always remember that there's risk. Doesn't matter where you invest, how you invest, the crypto still comes with the significant risk just due to volatility of the market. So it is really important before you invest in crypto. And use your local resources. As I've mentioned, regulators, so securities regulators, as well as anti-fraud centers in every jurisdiction have been trying to do a lot of work to prevent this type of instances from happening. So there are lists of bad players. But one thing that I will definitely highlight is that if you don't see the platform name on that list, but you have that gut feeling that there might be something off, go with your gut feeling. Those platforms pop up so quickly, the regulators cannot catch up with that. We cannot produce lists quick enough. And one of the things that we developed on NDAX just recently, first of all, we do have tons of blogs and information, educational material, on spotting fraud, but we're also working on developing fraud tool. It's almost like a self-assessment tool that some banks been using in previously. And with the self-assessment tool, you could just go through 10 simple questions. We do encourage you to be truthful to yourself. And very similar tool will be actually published on CMIC very soon too. You do need to be truthful to yourself. This tool is not, the information does not go to us. It is for you to go through the questions and go, how does this apply to me? And be critical. Don't just believe what this individual or company is telling you. Be critical about what you see and if you've seen any red flags. And this is just kind of a generic guidance. If you score highly on that tool, most likely you are dealing with a fraudulent platform. And at that point in time, you definitely need to reach out to your law enforcement agencies and have a conversation with them and identify what you're truly dealing with.
Right. I'm excited to see that new tool. I'll also mention that, Solidus's token sniffer solution is available for free. Anyone can go on tokensniffer.com, plug in a smart contract address or just the name of a token, and the tool that scans all new smart contracts in order to see if there's malicious code in them would give you a score. And obviously, it's just one of many, many tools that are available out there. Token Sniffer is now integrated with Etherscan, which is a very popular website to monitor various Ethereum transactions. So just a couple of examples. There are many, many more tools out there. And as we continue this series of conversations, we'll talk about more of them. And as you mentioned, Julia, very soon, we hope to also share with the CMIC community and more broadly the tool that you developed. So that's really great. I guess before we finish, is there anything that is important for you to say that we haven't covered or anything you want to emphasize again? that I haven't touched?
I wanted to highlight some of the statistics. I mean, we've
Please.
seen, year over year, crypto scams increasing, right? And so, Motley Fool's is a great website that does a lot of information. And it's interesting. So in 2023, there was 111,000 investment scams. And as of beginning of this year, we actually were on the trend. First half of the year, we had about 52,000 investment scams. And this is not monetary losses. This is how many separate investment scams were identified out there, with $679 million lost in the first half of the 2023. With that being said, it sounds like a very gloomy statistics, but then I looked also at chain analysis, and it really showed how mature the industry is becoming now. So, the numbers do sound quite high, but then you look at it, and chain analysis actually identified that in 2024, only 0.34% of total transaction on the blockchain were actually interacting with illicit addresses. That just tells you that the crypto is becoming, mass adopted, and it is used for a lot of very good reasons, for transacting with other people, for investment opportunities, but also for paying goods and services online. But, anything you do, whenever you engage with any new product, any investment product, or even crypto, just be careful. That's all what it is. Do your research, Dior every time, and things will go well.
Right. And if it happens in one way or another, it will happen to all of us throughout our lifetimes. Then, first of all, don't be too angry with yourself, because it happens to the smartest people in the world as well, and talk about it. One thing I always try to emphasize to regulators, because, we put out a lot of data about, for example, hard-coded rug pull scams. Based on our research, 1 out of every 4 new tokens in the Ethereum ecosystem, in the Ethereum virtual machine ecosystem, is a hard-coded scam. As you said, very, very high number. But one thing I want to say and then ask you about is that we actually believe, like you say, that first of all, you can see the growth and the progress that the industry is making, thanks to the work of leaders like you, of partners like we have in Chainalysis and all of the many people working on it. But there's one thing that I always emphasize to regulators is, yes, in permissionless ecosystems, it's obviously easier to try and scam because anyone can use them, but it's also transparent. So the hard-coded rug pull scams that we detect are automatically detectable scams, while in traditional finance, usually enough people would have to get scammed in order to do something about it. So you're starting to see how the more traditional finance will integrate with blockchain, there are also opportunities to reduce crime. And we're obviously very excited about it, as I'm sure you are too. I'm curious if you think when we talk about, we'll talk about it more very soon, but let's say if we have this exact same conversation in a year or 2 years, you think things will be better, things will be worse? Where will we be in terms of scams in crypto?
I'm an optimist, so I am hoping that things will change for better. And, the numbers definitely show. We do see that, from, a lot of the statistics been tracked from 2018, 2019, and it have been a steady increase. In the last few years, it almost flattens. So and this actually tells you that it's not just flattening, but it also kind of curving and downwards, just because there's more people using crypto. But if there's a scam have not increased, that means that we are making progress. And obviously, there's a lot of information being put out there. So I'm really hoping that this information gets to the right people and they actually get to listen to this and read this information and maybe do go through the tool for scam detectors before they engage with anything. So that is my goal, is to disrupt and to make sure that we educate everybody who's willing to listen. So I am positively optimistic that things will be better, that more people will get more comfortable with utilizing crypto assets, and that law enforcement will be more effective in identifying and preventing scams from popping up, and that we're not going to play whack-a-mole anymore, but we'll be actually very proactive and prevent this from happening.
Yes, I agree that even though this is a difficult topic and a very severe one, there are reasons to be optimistic. I'm with you on the optimistic side of things. So Julia, thank you so much for the time. I'm very excited for more educational material that's going to come out of the Countering Fraud workstream of CMIC, the Crypto Market Integrity Coalition. It was really a pleasure, always a pleasure to speak with you. And we'll talk very, very soon.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.